But mom just really wanted me to be friends with everybody. And although I agree you can be kind to everybody, it's just, you don't have to be friends with everybody. And in fairness, like if mom would have just been a friend, she wouldn't have been somebody I was choosing to be a friend. You are now, but not back then.
Yeah. Welcome back to the Bombshell Business Podcast. I'm your host, Amber Erickson Hurdle, and you know that this is the final season of this particular podcast. We are moving into a not really different direction, just not being in the Bombshell brand. For those of you who are just getting caught up, or maybe this is the first time you're listening, the long and short of it is that I love this and I love to give back to women, but my two businesses now and my expanding team are just demanding more of my time. And this particular effort is a pretty heavy lift. And we spend a lot of money and a lot of team hours and a lot of time on it for it to not really drive any business results. I mean, it doesn't indirectly, don't get me wrong, but it's not talking about the things that we talk about every single day with our customers. So we need to fix that. And, all things are limited in terms of resources. And so we just need to allocate our resources. So if you have not done this yet, go follow me on my YouTube channel or opt into our newsletter, which is nothing but helpfulness. The open rate proves that it is valuable. And so you can get that at amberhurdle.com/newsletter. And then we can start sending you the content that we produce every week, just like we do for our newsletters now. So we always give just a little thought for the week, a tip in branding, personal branding, and employer branding, and then the content that we've produced for that week. So that's how you can stay in touch with me. But today, it was one of our final episodes. I am very excited to introduce you to my daughter, my firstborn. Everyone knows the story. If not, we'll put in the show notes some history links back into the original few episodes of the show where I talk about becoming a teen mom. Of course, you can always read The Bombshell Businesswoman, How to Become a Bold Female Entrepreneur. And you can get that on Amazon, all the places. And then you can read the first 4 chapters and understand why I care so much about branding. And like this child, who's now 28 years old, not a child, but will always be my baby, has so much to do with that. So let me read you her official bio because she is an official guest and I want to treat her as such. And then we're going to spill the tea together. So Brittany Hurdle Murphy is a seasoned marketing director and visionary strategist, renowned for her ability to blend analytical insight with creative execution. With a rich background in both digital marketing and brand development, Brittany has carved out a unique space for herself in the marketing world. Her expertise spans crafting innovative campaigns that resonate with national audiences to building enduring brand identities that stand the test of time. Does any of this sound familiar? I don't know if the apple
I have
fell
no
from
idea where to learn that from.
I don't know either. As a nationally recognized, award-winning, accredited land consultant, which, by the way, is really hard to get, in real estate development, Brittany's analytical and creative sides united to puzzle piece deals together between her buyers and sellers, solidifying a strong reputation for herself in the development world. She most recently has leveraged her development knowledge to help vacation rental and short-term rental owners find the right land for their unique projects. This commitment to her clients has led Brittany to obtain licenses in various states, ensuring smooth and successful experiences. Originally from Nashville, Tennessee, Brittany now calls Kyle, Texas home, where she lives with her husband, Jake Murphy, ALC, their daughter, Blair, my granddaughter, and their 3 dogs, my grandpups, Shug, who's a Labradoodle, Knox, the German Shepherd, and Walker, who's a Border Collie Aussie mix. A graduate of Middle Tennessee State University, go Raiders, Brittany's dedication to her craft has earned her numerous accolades, including the 2018 Woman of the Year by the Wilson Post. Brittany's career is a testament to her ability to evolve and adapt while staying true to her roots. Her innovative mindset and passion for excellence continue to drive her success in the marketing world today. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Mom.
Brittany Hurdle Murphy. I almost got the names mixed up. Hi. So I think my audience knows how proud I am of you. And we've got a lot to dive into today. I'm actually going to set my timer so I don't turn this into a 9-year episode. But let's kick it off with just kind of starting out with the basics, right? Because there's the good, the bad, the ugly, and then the healing in our journey. And, the beautiful thing about you coming along so early in life, whether I was technically ready for you or not, was that we had so much support and so many people who loved us. And whether they were able to financially support or not, we were surrounded with love. And so you were born into just, you had so many aunts and uncles and people who like literally looked at you like family and had interest in you and had this village built around you. So I would say from my perspective, that was such a positive outcome immediately for me to experience in that. So I'm curious, like, what do you think the good things that emerged in your life, the lessons or the kind of more big picture stuff that stem from being such a young mom's daughter?
Well, first off, like you said, having that community, that's something you have always focused on my whole life. I was talking to our nanny this morning and she was telling me just how hard this child was struggling with the mom being gone and the dad not really spending a lot of time. And I thought back knowing like that you weren't necessarily around all the time because you had to work so much. And I was like, I never experienced that. I never had to be the act out kid. But then I got thinking about it. And even though you did have me in daycare at one point, I mean, Miss Kim was
It was
family.
And for those of you, Miss Kim is somebody I went to high school with. So I basically was dropping my daughter off at my friend's house who happened to have like 15 other kids.
Yeah. But like you said, that community, like I never felt like I was just being dropped off with some random stranger. I never had that issue. So like you really did solidify community from day one. And a lot of those people still follow me. But as for, what did that look like? Obviously, you weren't around as much as I needed because my love language is time. And so unfortunately for you, that did not jive well for me.
Yeah.
And that's probably why my love language is time, because I just wanted mom around. But looking back, obviously, I understand the sacrifices that she made. And because of that, now I was thinking about this morning, like you really, I think for a long time I looked at it like, oh, because mom wasn't around, like I'm going to be around for my kids. And it's like, no, now I look at it as because mom sacrificed, I am able to be around for my kids.
Oh, okay. Excuse me while I cry. Because
But
like
seriously,
that's it. Like I wanted to be a mom and I wanted to do all the things that I dreamed of doing as a mom, and I wanted a certain experience for you, but at the end of the day when you're like trying to juggle being the provider and the nurturer, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to just squelch my idea or my vision of what I want because I'm going to do what I have to do so that you can have the options, so that you have the opportunity to have whatever life you want despite being born to me. But along the journey that, there's feelings and there's relational challenges. And when you're young and you can't, I mean, well, first of all, can we just back up real quick and be like, how much do you love me now that you're a mom?
an insane amount. I told mom this the other day. I'll never forget it. I don't remember how old I was. And I know we were in the middle of a fight because we fought a lot growing up. I mean, when you're only 16 years apart, that's recipe for disaster.
It's like you fight like sisters.
But then after,
but then I'm like, but I'm in charge.
Exactly. But like I was telling you the other day, you told me you will never understand it until you're a mom yourself, and no truer words have ever been spoken. I mean, I'm so obsessed with Blair, it's unreal. So
yeah. But like as you're being, a hormonal emerging teenager, like that tween, oh my gosh. Can I tell the story about bell buckle? About what you found in the kitchen?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So Brittany's strong-willed, and she has been like since she was born, thank God, because for those of you who know the story, she was actually born Apgar Zero Smurf Blue. She had the umbilical cord wrapped around her neck twice. And like I got to touch her through a hole in her little incubator thing. 8 pounds, 10 and a half ounces. This child was not like a preemie,
Yeah.
but she had to go to the NICU. And so they had to take her away. So anyways, it was very good that she's strong-willed because she had to fight for her life in the NICU for 2 weeks. But not so fun for a mom who's like struggling to get through every day. And so Brittany was being strong-willed, and I went to go see some of my older female friends, back to that whole community. And for all of my, pseudo moms out there, if you're listening, thank you for being there and showing up. And one person said, my friend Gwen said, it is Brittany's job to test you and to try to become her own queen. And it's your job to not get your feelings hurt. And it didn't dawn on me that there was the option to not allow my feelings to be hurt because I was a child, essentially. I was still like in my 20s at this
In your
point. And
20s. Yeah.
yeah, I'm in my 20s and I've got this she's like junior high. And I'm trying to figure out her emotional situation and her hormones. Well, I'm still not fully developed myself. So she tells me that, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I asked for collateral material, like marketing materials from an all-female boarding school to be sent to my house.
Yeah.
And I just casually left it on the counter, knowing Brittany would see it and find it, and hoping that maybe that would straighten her out so I wouldn't have to deal with her attitude. And she went to school and she cried. And I think we had about 2 solid weeks from that little trick of us like
Yeah, as much as I like really did not get along with mom, I was a homebody. I was not leaving. So like mom can even drop me off at slumber parties. I had no interest.
No, she would always have to come back home. I'd always have to go get her or whatever. We had lots of people at our house because of that. But and you still are kind of that way. You're more of a, like, you like to go out and have your good time and concerts and friends and stuff, but then you really like to be home.
Yep.
So what would you say then would be like the most challenging thing? And not necessarily, we could talk about our relationship, but more for you. So like we all have childhood wounds. We all have unmet needs as children that kind of follow us into adulthood. There are things that we have to like unpack and examine and figure out, like, how do we leave that in the past and how do we move into the new version of ourselves? And like, I dare say that you had a nice buffet of things to select from childhood wounds being baseline, born to, to teenagers, but then also like all the things that happened after that evolved, just
So
consequences of it.
the question is, what was like the number one for me?
Yeah, I'd say, yeah, one, or if there's a couple that come to mind that were things you had to work through.
Honestly, just validating my feelings.
Yeah.
You were so set on making sure that I was strong and resilient that you forgot to also acknowledge my feminine like hurts and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest one for me without a doubt. Now, let me say, I do not believe in gentle parenting. So like, I'm not going to be over here with Blair when she's acting a fool, being like, oh, it's okay. So like, without a doubt, there's a fine line. And I think growing into an adult and looking back at everything, like, do I have to work through it? Yes. And kind of sort through my own feelings now. And thank God for a wonderful therapist and you encouraging me to be in therapy basically my whole life. I don't know what that fine line is going to be with Blair. Like, how do you acknowledge feelings, but also set boundaries? So, I mean, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I could have worse issues, right? Like you
but
get around men every other week or any problem like that. So
yeah,
we're always very protective of us.
Yeah, overly sometimes, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But so like, for moms out there, what I want to share with you, and maybe Brittany can speak to the daughters out there, but what I want to share with you is like, you could hold space for both. Like, I was doing the absolute best that I can because I was in survival mode. So it's hard to offer things to other human beings that like you don't even have to give to yourself. And so like when we're in this hard world and I'm a single mom and I don't know how I'm even going to pay for college or, those type of things, like I'm making sure that Brittany can survive this tough world, which by the way, she can.
Mission
I would not,
accomplished one way or the other.
mission accomplished on that side of things. But in my like survival mode and making sure that Brittany can survive and just really thinking more survival, like forgetting the more nurturing and not necessarily coddling, but like that was my thing, one of many, I'm sure. And so like that was the best that I had to offer at the time. It really, really was. Like I can honor that in myself and also hold space for Brittany's experience of it, which was she needed more nurturing. She needed her emotions validated. Not having those needs met probably has caused problems in her life and her own relationships. So like those two things, it's not like you have to say like, oh, I was a crappy mom and I'm
Right.
so sorry. Both can be true. So like what would you share with daughters from your experience of like having to be able to tell me like, mom, this really didn't do right with me?
I think that was just the natural evolution of our relationship. I mean, to be abundantly clear, mom and I went through it from, I don't know, what do you think? Probably when you and Derek's dad got a divorce is probably when it all really got tough. I think I had
Yeah.
a lot of I was getting pushed in a lot of directions and had things being fed into my mind. Um,
Yeah.
and instead of helping me process what I was feeling in a healthy way, it probably went the opposite. So probably from like what I was 9 or 10
Yeah.
until honestly I moved out. And that's what I tell every girl. I'm like, just wait till you can move out and start building your own life. But also like one thing that you made abundantly clear to me was like once I was on my own, I was on my own. Like you had raised me and it was time for me to be a big girl and pay for my own stuff. And so I'm honestly grateful for that. It sounded harsh and like maybe, I don't want to say cruel, but starting out on your own is scary as a young female in today's world. And so, but I'm grateful for it too, because it gave me the confidence to do what I needed to do. And nobody could tell me anything different because I was paying my own bills. So,
And that's my deal, right? That's been
yeah.
my deal with you guys is like if you're on payroll and I'm investing in you,
Yep.
then I'm going to expect a return on my investment, and I'm also going to have parameters and boundaries around my expectations because I'm financing it.
True.
But if you're on your own, I'm just going to be over here cheering you on, giving you advice when you want it, or maybe offering advice. And then if you don't want it, shutting my fat mouth because like it's your life. You have agency over it. Anyways.
Yeah. I think, that first couple of months, or I don't even know how long, but that after I moved out, we really kind of took a chill pill from each other, even though I was a mile down the road.
Yeah.
Then honestly, our relationship has gotten closer than ever in the last couple of years, but that's also because of other
Yeah.
external factors.
Yeah.
But
But the crazy thing is too, though, like even though, and I don't want anybody thinking like we were screaming at each other every other day.
no,
It's not. We just
no.
didn't understand each other. Like
Yeah,
there
we
was
just
just kind of
didn't. It's just like
friction.
that person that's not necessarily your enemy, but you just like, well, for example, growing up, mom wanted me to be best friends with everybody. And I played that game so hard and it never worked for me because I just don't get along with most people my age, which stems from being raised around adults and not children. So, and
Because
so
Brittany had a whole squad of adults
around
who
at all times.
all the time, or they would just come and get her, or like people had dibs on Brittany doing different things with them.
Yeah.
So
But mom just really wanted me to be friends with everybody. And although I agree you can be kind to everybody, it's just, you don't have to be friends with everybody. And in fairness, like if mom would have just been a friend, she wouldn't have been somebody I was choosing to be a friend. You are now, but not back then.
yeah. Yeah.
So, but again, that's also the evolution of our relationship and really learning like our differences, but also the things that do bring us together because I am so much like you. But that was a lot of butting heads up first.
Yeah. Yeah, but and still the crazy thing is though, like we've always like needed each other.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I'm irritated with you and I don't always understand you. Like we are not even on the same page. However, like I want you right here next to me.
Well, it
Like
was always, I don't like you, but I love you.
right, exactly. Yeah. Like
Hate
how
was
did
not
you come
allowed in
out
our,
of me? But man, I would slay dragons for you to be clear. Like
yeah. Yeah. I definitely
um
always wanted mom.
no, yeah, and I'm everybody, your kids, like you are obsessed with them, you love them, but like when, again, I wish I could go back. I mean, I know that I can't, so you have to let it go. But like, I didn't understand personality types. I didn't understand, attachment theory. Like, if I knew everything that I know now, then like, just even like the first time I looked at your predictive index behavioral assessment and I saw how far your A and your C were on this. So bear with me. I know not everybody speaks predictive index, but if you do, Brittany's A over C across the midline is the widest expression of her personality, which is proactiveness. It's about moving. It's about keeping things moving as fast as possible. Like that is the biggest thing about Brittany in her work style. And so we would go to a restaurant, like the reservations would be in my name. I haven't even like picked up my purse to get out of the car and she's at the hostess stand. Like she didn't walk with me. She wasn't like hanging out with me. She was at the hostess stand. And I'm like, well, I hope you enjoy your table. Like it would hurt my feelings, which now I would understand her why. And then I could have a reasonable conversation about like, hey, I know you're in a hurry, but like, I kind of want to hang out with you as opposed to being butthurt, like there's just, that's such a little
thought
example.
I was being rude and didn't realize like I was just being me. But
you were
then
being
that is
you.
a learned behavior that, hey, you're with people, so hang on a tight second. I have to do the same thing to my husband now. So
yeah,
I'm getting it back. Trust me.
I know.
Jake
I love
literally
it.
stood up from a table a couple weeks ago. He's going to kill me for telling you this. Literally stood up from a dinner table the other night and our client wasn't even done drinking her wine. And I was like, oh my God.
But then you also understand.
Yeah, exactly. And she was so kind, but still.
Yeah. So, okay, let's back up a little bit. How do you think your life developed as compared to your peers that like had grown parents?
At the risk of sounding cocky, I'm definitely light years ahead of my peers. There's a reason I'm not going to my 10-year reunion next week because they're still in their own world and I'm not. Not that some of them aren't up to great things. I mean, my best friend from high school is a freaking doctor and rocking it. So, I mean, they're definitely out there, but I just think from like an emotional intelligence level, that I'm light years ahead because they just didn't have the same worries, right? Like they had that normal childhood. And so they didn't have to grow up fast. And so that was one thing after I got out of high school that I stopped having this animosity against my peers and just being like, they're where they're supposed to be.
They're where they are on their journey.
I just happen to be far ahead and that's okay. And a lot of them look at me a certain way because of that. And I'm okay with that. I'm happy with where I'm at. I mean, it all worked out in the end. I am literally living my dream life. So, I mean, it might have been a different path, but you said you would go back and do things differently. And I can understand why you would say that, but I wouldn't. I am literally living my dream life. So, I mean, that's not to say I don't have my own problems, my anxieties. I mean, my hair is literally falling out right now from stress. Like life is life. Life is going to happen to you no matter if you're driving your dream car, you bought a house, you have an awesome husband and a beautiful kid and every dog you could have ever dreamed of. I mean,
but the world's literally on fire right now, baseline. So like without any personal experiences, like just the whole world is stressful right now.
Exactly. So, I mean, I don't know. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. And I do think, Brittany, Derek, and I are kind of like this little triad of like ride or die. Yeah. And I just think that we're all very resilient. Like
For sure.
It's like exactly what you said. Like, oh, the world can be on fire around me and I can still find my joy and appreciate this life that I've created for myself. It doesn't make it perfect, but it makes it the priority to be grateful for what I do have and not to focus on what I don't have. And I think you and I are both constantly sending memes and reels and stories to that accord.
Yeah. Like you just make the most of it. You just figure out like, I don't really know how to put it into words, but like you said, we probably have like a sick, twisted humor about it sometimes, but it's what keeps us going. And I think honesty is what keeps us going.
Yes.
We're like with Paul, our SEO guy, he messaged me the other day. He's like, you're always so real and honest with me. I want to be real and honest with you. And I just think the world's lacking that and missing that. You can just be real and honest and you don't have to put on a show or pretend like everything's honky-dory, like, woohoo. No, it's not. I mean, what did I used to tell you? Because I can come off rude, even though I really am not. And sometimes like, as I get older, I'm like, maybe I'm on the spectrum and I just don't get enough credit for it. Like I really, because I just don't have that filter. It does not exist in my life. But just being real and honest with people, like it's something that the world is craving these days, and it's just not a thing.
Well, I mean, if you look at like social media, it has just become like about influencers and like fast fashion and fast home design and like you've got it like and this year we're all doing this and it's like, no, I'm not. I like how my house looks and I'm gonna like how it looks in 5 years, just the way that it is. Like I'm good. Because I don't need to keep up with your fake life that you're living.
Right. Yeah. I just think the more that you can just show up, and you've helped me realize this, as who you are and be confident in who you are and just be honest. Like I'm not, ducking behind doors and corners trying to pretend to be something that I'm not, while also juggling everything that life has.
We're tired, man. Everybody's always, and they say this to you too, which you've got a pretty decent battery. I think sometimes you need bigger pauses than I do. But your battery, when it's on full speed, is like mine, and you take on just an enormous amount. But it's like, if you want me to show up as this huge power of this like fireball, you can't ask me to also wear a different costume every day. Like, I don't have time for costume changes. Either let me be me and tackle all of this, or get out of the way and don't like me. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine with you not liking me.
Yep. That's one thing I learned, is I'm okay being the bad guy in some people's stories. Like, just because that's their idea doesn't mean that's the truth. So
that's right. Oh boy. Oh boy, you and I have learned that together.
Yeah.
That is definitely a mother-daughter lesson. I think we both kind of finally got to the same space in like the same 18-month period. We were like, oh, okay.
Yep.
No more of this.
How good life can be when you're not carrying other people's crap around.
That's it. That is it. So how important would you say 90s rap is to your life philosophy?
I actually have the cup that you gave me. I haven't gotten the chance to post it yet, but I was going to post it today with a picture of my boys going crazy in the background that said, "Y'all gonna make me lose my mind." I mean, I'm a 90s baby, probably more so than any other 90s kid. That's how we survived.
That's right.
And now it provides the perfect memes to our life now. So,
and the thing that kills me is like, Snoop has been such a part of like your entire life. Like, yeah. He came out even before I moved to Tennessee, and then he was like part. We used to call our house the Hurdle Hizzle. Like, people would check into the Hurdle Hizzle at
before that was the cool thing to do, to name your houses, FYI, because more people do it these days. We were doing it before it was cool.
Yeah, like we had a whole place on Facebook. People checked in, but we also were basically an event venue, so there's that. But but just to watch him, like, almost like he's stepping into Dolly Parton territory at this point, he's like this whole other experience.
He's just an icon. Yeah.
That's.
I mean, and we also have to mention my dog's name is Shug, and not Shug like sugar, like everybody from the South likes to assume that's where that name came from. No, he's named after the convicted felon Suge Knight.
That's right.
And
father of Death Row Records, now owned by Snoop.
Full circle moment.
Full circle. Yeah. Okay. So let's see here. Let's talk about what you're doing now, because you're like award-winning. Well, you're award-winning, period. You've won a lot of awards over the years, but like especially in real estate. And then now you've had a baby. So you've done marketing, social media, you've done all of that. Then you really kind of took over in the real estate world, and now you're finding yourself coming back. So can you just walk us through that, and what are you doing now?
Yeah, well, to be quite honest, I don't know what I'm doing right now. So it was really important to Mom for me to get a college degree. I grew up knowing I wanted to be in real estate, which stemmed partly from Mom was into the vision board thing very early on. And so we would ride around and look at these big, gorgeous houses and be like, oh, we're going to live in this one day and this one day. And little did we know that our neighborhood didn't even exist yet. But we did end up living in an equal house to what we used to point at. And so, of course, in real estate, everybody plasters their face everywhere. But to me, like all the successful women on billboards were in real estate. So I wanted to be in real estate.
And so she was like 8.
Yeah, literally. I mean, we were playing house and my friends needed to buy a house, obviously. So I was a realtor. So that's how I really got started in the real estate world, and then enter my dad, and he's in the development world. And I didn't realize how many of those kitchen conversations had really resonated with me. And I'm highly analytical. I love numbers. I always said if I could pick my classroom, I would be an algebra teacher, but you can't pick the kids. So no, thank you. And so I dove into the development world and I loved it. And that is exactly how I met my husband. But there came a time when things were changing and mom was moving to Florida, and I just realized I really needed a change of pace. And so I just picked up and moved literally within 2 weeks, 2 years ago. And very long story, ended up in Colorado with my husband, who at the time, technically I wasn't even dating him. And
I just want to go back to those moments when you're a teenager. You're like, I'm nothing like you. And I'm like, picks up and moves to Colorado in 2 weeks, meets her husband, but they're not even dating when she moves there. Like, you're not marketing. Okay, carry on.
Yeah, I'm definitely a mini Amber, but she's right. I would say growing up, I would have never imagined that. So anyways, obviously moving state means you got to get different licenses and stuff. Well, then my husband's family has a very successful ranch real estate company, nationally recognized, and there was a need for a marketing director. And obviously I had a background in that with a communications degree from MTSU and just obviously being raised around it. So,
and you also did a lot of you had a whole social media company I real estate
did have
company.
A social media company while I was getting started in real estate because I moved out and I needed to pay my bills. And I had been doing that for all of the companies I'd ever worked for. So I just kept going that direction with it. But as I really got deep into real estate, I actually passed that on to my uncle, who started his whole career off of it, and super proud of him for that. And so now I'm back in the marketing world. And so it's that balance of like, I'm super analytical, but I'm super creative, which apparently is not very normal.
No.
And so I'm trying to figure out how to get both, because I love both. Like I want both. I don't just want one and I don't just want the other. I love doing both. So now, since I've become the marketing director at M4 Ranch Group, I've also started taking back on some more social media clients, just because there's such an underserved market. I feel like for a lot of people, it feels so unattainable, and they don't understand how to find their brand voice and to build that consistency. But they have these amazing businesses and they are these amazing people. And so I just want to be able to serve them. So now I'm dabbling back in that again. And I actually have hosted a roundtable on it for the Realtors Land Institute and had a lot of positive feedback for that. You know, one thing I've struggled with the most growing up is that not understanding that people don't know the things that I know.
Yeah, that's pretty common.
I just assume it's just free knowledge out there. I'm the Google queen. So like anything I don't know, I ask Google, or these days I ask ChatGPT, because then it's going to synthesize everything for me, which comes from me processing information so quickly. So it's learning how to serve people and understanding that they don't know the same things that I do. I mean, my mother-in-law will literally tell you she doesn't know what I do, but she knows I'm good at it.
Yeah.
We're getting
this
results.
Is also like what you were probably junior high-ish. I mean, I would say probably 11 or 12 years old, doing my expense reports in Excel and making photocopies of receipts and attaching it to the Excel sheet and like
putting together packets and doing phonathons. And
yeah, let me tell you. So I'm like, hey, Britt, do you want to come and meet Jessica Simpson tonight? We're doing an event for her at the Country Music Hall of Fame downtown. I'm going to Hope's tonight.
Right.
Brittany was exposed to so much, like, that it was just so like, whatever. spent a month at Alan Jackson's house and she suddenly hates Alan Jackson's music because it just took mom out of the house for a month instead of being like, how cool. Like she was just so benign to everything. And so it's true. When you approach your career, like between just going along for the ride with adults and going along for the ride in whatever business venture I was in at the time or working for somebody. I mean, Brittany went to college with me, like literally attended classes with me as an adult returning student. And then your dad, my ex-husband who adopted Brittany, all he talks about is real estate. So that wasn't really hard to learn a thing or two, but his openness to be able to show you, even though you weren't even there yet, but to answer all your questions and take you to show you things and open up the whole real estate side of things. Like you got exposed to, you weren't our athlete. You were not our athlete. You weren't our
drama kid. I was the FBLA and student body kid.
Yeah, Brittany was my academic. So I think you've done pretty dang well for yourself to pull everything together. And I just, I say this, and I'm so happy to say it with Brittany here, and Brittany's heard me say it before, but just like everybody together, I just want to say that I get tons of credit for like overcoming being a teen mom and like, and like, yes, I did. And thank you. I will take my credit for that because that's empowered me so much. Like if I can do that and she can get to this point, like I can do anything because that was hard. But like, we've got to give credit to Brittany because she went through all of that only as a child whose nurturer that she was dependent on for her security and everything was having to work all the freaking time. And so like, we got to give her a round of applause for her evolution of choosing, for always choosing to move forward, to not get stuck in the past, to not be better, but to get better and to accept.
I definitely think you gave me the right tools, right? And so even if I wasn't listening to them in the moment when ish really hit the fan, like then it would click and be like, oh yeah, mom mentioned that one time. Maybe I'll try that. Like nothing else is working. Let's just try it.
Yeah.
Kind of how I am. I mean, it's like with my therapist too. She listened to me for a whole year before I made any significant strides. And then it just finally clicked one day and turned on. So
yeah, I used to joke with Brittany and my ex's daughter that I was just going to let them pass around the big giant poster that said, I told you so, mom or Amber, whatever. I'm just teasing. There was a lot I didn't know too. So tell us about your motherhood. And I guess we'll wrap with this question until I ask you the question I ask every guest. But tell me about motherhood. What does that feel like to you now that you're almost up on a year?
Yeah, a year. Well, first off, I definitely have a strong-willed. My husband brought Blair to me the other night and said, I think I told you this. I'm trying to find the words again. He said, well, she's just like her mom, and she decided we were doing this, and there was no other option.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. And I, like mom said, she didn't know about personalities and all of the things growing up. And luckily I do now, which is also how I'm so confident in myself because mom's had me take every personality assessment ever, and they all say the same thing. So pretty sure I am who I am. So now I can look at Blair, and for example, mom ran Blair's birth chart like the minute she was born, once we had the time. And so I can look at her and, just see the things that she's growing into. And it's so fascinating. And I love watching her grow, and I love her spunky personality. I've actually always loved that about all kids. I love seeing the different personalities. Work from home mom, so that comes with its own challenges, and definitely have a different appreciation. Like I know I've always appreciated how hard you worked for us, but doing it with a little one running around trying to eat dog food and getting trampled by dogs, like that's a whole nother experience. But just Jake and I are both very grateful, both to you and his parents, for just taking us and letting us be a part of everything, right? And so we're doing that same thing with Blair, is just take her along. She'll figure it out. I can tell she's going to be my little entrepreneur. If none of our other kids are, Blair's got it.
She is just a huge personality. She's literally gorgeous. I'll make sure that Jane gets a picture so we can put a picture of her. And I know she's my granddaughter, but y'all, she is gorgeous. She's gorgeous. And she's in charge
with it. Yeah. Oh yeah. And she's definitely going to be the first daughter syndrome.
Yeah. And then she's
oldest daughter.
Yeah, and she comes from a long line on both sides, on Jake's side and our side, on all branches of all trees of very strong women.
Yep.
So good luck to her future husband.
Yeah, we're buckling in.
Yeah, but she's so yummy. She's such a sweetie, and thank God for FaceTime.
She has a big personality, but that girl loves kisses and she loves cuddles. And yeah,
Oh, she's so sweet. Like that's the thing. Is like, yeah, she's sassy, but she is
she
so
wraps it
sweet.
with a hug.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and a little mischievous twinkle in her eye.
Yep.
As most kids have. Okay, so final question. Um, Parting piece of advice for a bombshell or someone who's on their journey to becoming a bombshell, a bold, brave, unwaveringly confident woman. What would you tell
Yep.
them?
Right. And do it anyway. And that is a book. So go read it. I cannot talk to the whole book because I started reading it. Then my therapist told me to stop reading it. Yeah. She just said where I was at right now, I needed to stop with it. But getting into it was incredible. But looking back on a lot of the decisions that we've made, it was, we were afraid, but we did it anyway. Like, because the option is stay here and stay stagnant or just test it out. Like, can it really get any worse? Like, I mean, there's a certain level of, you've got to look at decisions, and obviously if it's going to hurt you or somebody else, don't do it. But if there's really not that much to lose other than your ego, what is there to lose? So, I mean, it's a perfect example of me picking up out of thin air and moving from everything I've ever known, which led me to my husband, literally the man of my dreams, everything I've ever prayed for and more. And right now we're doing it all again, picking up and moving and starting a whole nother chapter. And we're afraid, but we're doing it anyways. So
that's right. Because we want what we want.
Yeah. Like, so that was what we were doing was not working. So let's try it differently because it wasn't working anyways. So.
Yeah. Well, and I think, there's so many things there, but when the pain of remaining the same becomes greater than the pain of making a change, it's like you got to do it.
Yep.
Yeah. There was a woman that I was in a group with who told me one time, and I think this really influenced all of our experience. And I was just like, how do you do it? How have you kept this business going? Because it wasn't even like a easy storefront business. It was a very niche business. And she was like, oh, when I have to make a decision, and she was so nonchalant about it, when I have to make a decision, I just think, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? And if I can live with that, I just effing do it. And I was like, so that's how I started making decisions. And I think that that's really helped our family. And I can't take credit for it. She gave that wisdom. And
yeah,
I see you living
that's
it.
exactly how I make decisions. Well, more so, I have more of a fear of, but what if I don't?
Right.
And so I don't ever want to look back on life with any regret. And I would say so far, I have no regret. Have I always made the best decisions? No. But did it hurt me or did it hurt anybody else? Also, no. Before I met my husband, I had a really awesome dating record. Hurt me. But I learned a lot from it, and now I have the world's best husband. So nobody believed me when I came home and said I had met my husband because I had a really awesome track record.
Yeah. No, we got to give a shout out to Mr. Jake Murphy because he is, I couldn't have picked out anyone more perfect for you, and I couldn't possibly love him more. And I'm like, it is so, I will say, and I probably said this on an episode around the time that Blair was born, but when you have gone through at least Brittany's lifetime of us just trying to figure it out. Yeah. Like we didn't have a roadmap. I didn't get an instruction manual on you. Like nobody gave you the how to survive being somebody who's only 16 years older than you. Like nobody got the manual, but Jake has just fit into like this experience, this full circle experience that culminated the day that Blair was born. And we had 5 days of labor, which I didn't even know was like legal to do, but she labored for 5 days and these kids didn't sleep. These grown adults, they didn't sleep at all. It was really a hard week. It was the week of my birthday. I'm in Colorado with them. And then like everything that we've been through as, you know, Brittany and I and our whole story. And then we get to this moment where this new life, 3 days after my birthday, like complete birthday gift to me, this new life comes from this love, from this really super healthy relationship that Brittany's in. And I look at Jake and I'm like, hey, because they're so tired. I'm Brittany. I'm like, she's here. I'm looking at Jake. She's here.
We
And
had
they're
no
just like
idea.
comatose, like out in outer space, like hadn't slept in 4 nights, like labored. It was so bad. And then I'm playing like, your child is on planet Earth. And they were like, what? And I looked at Brittany. She started crying. She looked at me. We had our moment. Then I look up at Jake and I catch his eyes of Blair and Brittany and Blair to Brittany and him. And I was just like, this is God's grace in action right now. Like, this is full circle. Like, you can't screw it up. Like, you can't screw it up. If you are trying from my faith, you can say the universe, highest self, fill it in with whatever makes you comfortable, because I'm not asking you to take on anything that I believe. But according to my faith, and this is my story and experience, you know, I've tried so hard to walk in God's will. I've tried and I haven't gotten right, and I've made a lot of mistakes. But what I know to be true is, if you are walking in God's will, or attempting to, or asking God to help you figure out what to do, even when you make mistakes, I think your intention is rewarded. Now, I can't cite a verse on that, and don't hold me to it. But even if it's like the universe is conspiring in your favor, if you're always trying to align with the vibration of the highest good in the universe, then the universe is going to reward you and keep sucking you back into that vibration. And so I think that's where we ended up in the end.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like you said, I have the most wonderful husband, the best dad in the world. Blair's so obsessed with her dad. Like, it's just, it all works out, like you said. So if we can get here, I know.
Where else can we go?
Exactly. The world is our oyster.
Yeah. And that's the crazy thing, is we just kind of like put a caps, like Blair kind of, to me, Blair put a punctuation mark on that book of our
series. Yeah.
series. Yeah. And like, now we're writing this new book where I'm a Gigi and you're a mom and Derek's grown. And like, this is a whole new season for us, and appropriate that this is a whole new season of my business life. And I just feel like you are the core piece of the Bombshell story. And I couldn't imagine ending this podcast without you and I just kind of talking through it.
Yeah. When you're like, you haven't been on my podcast yet, I was like, oh yeah, I guess I haven't. You're like, do you want to? I'm like, sure.
Yeah. So now it's on record. We're both lunatics and we're fine with it. And and we live great lives because we choose for them to be great. The end.
It really is that simple. It, like, I was trying to explain to somebody the other day. It really is that simple. We overcomplicate it. We fluff it all up, but it really is that simple. Just make the choices that are going to fill your cup, and don't worry about what everybody else thinks. And I know that's easier said than done, but in the end, it really does work out in your favor, and the right people will ride along with you.
Yeah.
Always been my rule. If you're not hurting yourself and you're not hurting anybody else, do it. Just do it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, thank you for being, I think you're one of my last, if not my last guest, but thank you for taking the time, for coming and sharing yourself.
I love you so much, Mom.
I love you too. And I'm ridiculously proud of you. Proud. Okay, Bombshell. You don't have to subscribe because this is coming to an end, but do remember, go to my YouTube channel, where we're still going to be talking about branding. We're still going to be talking about employee engagement. We're still going to be talking about marketing. We're still going to be talking about empowerment and mental health and all of those things, because it's going to be focused on leadership and branding, just like this podcast is. It's just going to have a little less lipstick, a little less high heels, and a little more gender neutral conversation. Not to say that we won't get into that here and there, but we just want to open up the platform to reach the people that we actually work with day to day, and that is men and women. So just trying to simplify to amplify. And so go to amberhurdle.com/newsletter, go to my YouTube channel, Amber Hurdle, And I will catch you on the next episode.